Welcome back to our channel, Valuable Coins Hub. These rare quarter-dollar coins make people rich. Let's find out why. Don't miss out one of these who know a single coin make you rich. Number 1. Today, we're taking a close look at a coin that millions of Americans once spent every single day without a second thought. The United States Washington quarter dollar from 1981. You might think it's just an ordinary coin, but when it comes to collectors, condition, errors, and rarity, this little piece of change can actually become quite valuable. Stick around until the end because I'll reveal the surprising amount some of these quarters have sold for in the real market and even at auctions. The Washington quarter has been around since 1932, honoring the first president of the United States, George Washington. By 1981, the design was already a familiar sight in everyone's hands and pockets. But that doesn't mean the coins from this year are boring or worthless. In fact, the 1981 quarters carry a story of their own, and some have unique characteristics that make collectors pay close attention. Let's talk about the basics first. The obverse side of the 1981 quarter shows the bust of George Washington, facing left, with the word Liberty above his head and the date 1981 beneath. It's a design that most Americans know well, a symbol of trust and stability. Flip it over and you'll see the eagle on the reverse side, wings spread proudly, holding arrows in its talons. Above it, the words United States of America, and beneath, the denomination quarter dollar. A design that's powerful yet simple, a piece of American identity. Now, you may ask, if millions of these were made, what makes the 1981 quarter worth more than 25 cents? The answer lies in rarity, condition, and errors. Collectors don't just want any quarter. They want coins that stand out, coins that tell a story. And with the 1981 quarter, there are a few things to look for. One of the biggest factors is condition. Quarters from 1981 that survived in pristine, uncirculated state are already harder to find. Remember, most coins from that time were used daily, clinking in cash registers, riding around in pockets, scratched and worn down over decades. Finding one today without marks, with full luster and sharp detail, is a challenge. And when something becomes difficult to find, the price goes up. But condition is just the start. What really excites collectors are minting errors. Errors turn a common coin into something extraordinary. Some 1981 quarters are known with off-center strikes, where the design is shifted and parts of the coin are blank. Others show double die errors, where details like the date or lettering appear doubled. These mistakes are not flaws to collectors, they're treasures. Each error coin is unique, one of a kind, and that makes them highly desirable. Even small errors like misaligned dies or weak strikes can raise the value significantly. And then there are dramatic errors like missing letters, blank planchets struck with partial designs, or coins minted on the wrong metal. These are the dream finds for coin hunters because they transform what looks like a regular quarter into a rare and valuable collectible. Collectors love the 1981 quarter not just for the errors, but also because it came during an important time in U.S. coinage history. This was the last stretch of the eagle reverse design before the big changes that would arrive in the late 1990s with the 50-state quarters program. So in many ways, the 1981 coin represents the closing chapters of an era that had lasted for decades. Owning one in top condition or with a striking error is like owning a piece of American coinage history. And here's the moment you've been waiting for, the value. Believe it or not, while most 1981 quarters are still only worth face value, the rare ones in uncirculated grades or those with dramatic minting errors have been sold for as much as several $1,000s. In fact, at auctions, certain examples have reached close to $5,000, all depending on rarity, condition, and uniqueness. So, check your change carefully. That ordinary-looking 1981 quarter in your drawer could be worth far more than you think. Number 2, we're talking about a very special quarter. One that marks a turning point in American coinage, the 1965 Washington quarter dollar. This coin might look ordinary at first glance, but for collectors, the year 1965 is filled with hidden treasures, mysteries, and valuable surprises. So, if you've ever wondered whether that old quarter sitting in your drawer might be worth more than 25 cents, you'll want to stick around until the very end. Now, let's set the stage. Before 1965, quarters in the United States were made of 90% silver. For decades, people trusted that their quarters held real value in the metal itself. But in 1965, everything changed. Rising silver prices forced the U.S. Mint to stop using silver in quarters and switch to a new composition, copper-nickel clad coins. This was the very first year of the clad coinage we still use today. That's why the 1965 quarter isn't just another date in the series. It represents the birth of a new era in American money. Because of that change, collectors pay very close attention to this year. Millions of 1965 quarters were made, but not all of them are the same. In fact, some very unusual coins slipped through the cracks, and those are the ones worth hunting for. One of the most fascinating rarities tied to the 1965 quarter is the silver transitional error. When the mint switched from silver to clad planchets, a small number of silver blanks from 1964 accidentally got struck with the 1965 date. These quarters look almost identical to the regular 1965 clad coin, but they're actually 90% silver. If you find one of these, you're holding something incredibly rare. Collectors treasure these because they capture the chaos of that historic transition. But that's not the only error to look for. Some 1965 quarters show off-center strikes, where part of the design is missing and the blank metal shows. Others have double-die errors, with the date or lettering appearing doubled under close inspection. Then there are wrong planchet errors, where the coin was struck on a blank intended for another denomination. Imagine a quarter struck on a dime planchet, smaller and lighter than usual. Each of these errors is like a fingerprint, unique and valuable. And don't forget condition. Since the 1965 quarter entered circulation right at the start of the clad era, most were heavily used. Coins from this year with full sharp details, original mint luster, and no wear are much harder to find today. High-grade examples in uncirculated condition are always in demand, and collectors will pay a premium to add them to their sets. What makes the 1965 quarter so fascinating is that it bridges two worlds. On one side, you have the classic silver coinage era, and on the other, the modern clad coinage we're still using. It's a coin of transition, a coin that represents change, and for collectors, that makes it extra meaningful. Add in the possibility of minting errors, and you have a coin that truly excites treasure hunters and history lovers alike. Now, let's get to the part everyone's waiting for, the value. While most 1965 quarters are still worth face value, the rare ones tell a different story. A silver transitional error quarter dated 1965 has sold at auction for as much as $40,000. Yes, $40,000 for a single quarter. Even high-grade examples without errors can bring in strong prices, but those rare transitional pieces are the true jackpot. So, the next time you come across an old 1965 quarter, don't just toss it into your change jar. Take a careful look, check its weight, inspect the details, and you just might have a rare treasure hiding in plain sight. Number 3 and last rare coin, we're diving into the world of the Washington quarter once again, and this time we're taking a close look at the 1977 quarter dollar. At first glance, it might seem like just another coin that passed through millions of hands during the late 70s. But believe me, there's more to this story than meets the eye. By the end of this video, you'll see why collectors pay close attention to this date, and you'll discover just how much money some rare examples of the 1977 quarter have brought at auctions. Let's take ourselves back to the late 1970s. The United States was in a time of change, with the country facing inflation, shifting politics, and a wave of new culture. Through it all, the Washington quarter remained a steady piece of American coinage, just as it had since 1932. By 1977, the familiar design of George Washington on the obverse and the eagle on the reverse had already become one of the most recognized coin images in the world. Millions of people carried these quarters in their pockets every day, yet only a tiny fraction of them knew that some could hold hidden value far beyond 25 cents. Now let's talk design for a moment. On the front, or obverse, you have George Washington facing left, the word liberty above his head, the national motto "In God We Trust" at his side, and the date 1977 resting below. Flip the coin, and you're greeted by the proud eagle on the reverse. Wings spread wide, arrows in its talons, standing as a symbol of American strength and readiness. Simple, powerful, and timeless. But for collectors, the real interest doesn't lie in the design itself, since it had been in use for decades by 1977. Instead, the excitement comes from condition, rarity, and the fascinating world of minting errors. Let's start with condition. Most of the 1977 quarters were used daily, rattling around in pockets, coin jars, and vending machines for years. That's why quarters from this year that have survived in uncirculated or mint state condition are already desirable. Coins with sharp detail, original luster, and no signs of wear can bring in far more than face value, especially when graded by professional services at the highest levels. Collectors are always chasing that perfect strike, that coin that looks just as it did the day it left the mint. But the true gems are the error coins, the ones that slip through the cracks at the US Mint and end up becoming treasures for collectors. Imagine finding a 1977 quarter that was struck off-center, with part of the design missing and blank space showing. Or a double-die error, where the letters or numbers appear doubled under magnification, giving the coin a dramatic and unusual look. Then there are wrong planchet errors, cases where a quarter was accidentally struck on a blank intended for a dime or a foreign coin. These are the kinds of mistakes that collectors dream of because they make each coin unique and highly sought after. Some 1977 quarters also have clipped planchet errors, where a curved section of the coin is missing due to a cutting mistake during production. Others might show die cracks or cuds, where part of the design appears raised or broken because of damage to the minting die. Each of these quirks turns an ordinary 1977 quarter into something extraordinary, and serious collectors are always on the lookout for them. Now, why does this matter? Because in the world of coin collecting, rarity and uniqueness drive value. A coin that millions of people once ignored can suddenly become worth hundreds, even thousands, if it has the right characteristics. And that's exactly the case with the 1977 Washington quarter. So here comes the exciting part, the value. While most 1977 quarters in circulation are still worth their face value of 25 cents, high-grade uncirculated examples and rare minting errors have reached shocking amounts. In fact, at real auctions, some pristine examples and dramatic error coins from this year have sold for as much as $6,000. Yes, $6,000 for a single quarter that once jingled around in someone's pocket. And that, my friends, is why coin collecting is so thrilling. Every coin has a story, and every coin has potential. The 1977 quarter is a perfect example of how history, condition, and minting quirks can transform a simple piece of change into a valuable treasure. Thank you so much for watching and spending this time with me today. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the 1977 quarter and want to keep learning about rare and valuable coins, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and tap the notification bell so you never miss another discovery. Who knows, the next coin we talk about could be sitting in your very own pocket right now. Until next time, happy collecting and happy hunting.